This is Danny Flexon here for SecondsOut. Delighted to be joined by former national amateur champion and now 1-0 as a pro, Louise Orton. How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Not bad.
Glad to hear it. You waited seemingly forever for your debut, but you made it in March. Now you're back out again in May. What's changed? Why is it suddenly all systems go?
Well, you say that, but it's actually been postponed now to the 16th of July. The show, I think 5 of the fighters that were the main ticket sellers have pulled out through injury, so they've now put the show back to the July 16th. But yeah, no, it was kind of like where I've not boxed for the last 3 years. It was obviously COVID was the massive contributor to that, but where I hadn't boxed for so long, like I just wanted to get out and be as busy as I could really to get as many fights in this year. So they offered me that fight. It was kind of just around the corner, stayed in camp, perfect opportunity really just to carry on ticking over.
So how will things change now that it's been postponed by a couple of months? Will you need to take a week or two off and then go back up again?
Yeah, so it's not really ideal, but I've actually got a holiday the beginning of June. So the plan is kind of carry on training up till holiday, get the weight down. And luckily my partner's one of my coaches. So when I'm on holiday, he'll carry on coaching me in Turkey. And then when I get back, I've got 5 weeks left. So that will be kind of like the hard, intense training for probably the next 4 weeks. And then fight week will be quite relaxed.
And the show, the debut fight that you had, that was on a Fightzone Dennis Hobson show, which is obviously a great opportunity. What's the one in July? That's not Fightzone, is it?
No, it's not. So it's a TM14 promotion. So I think they're based in Milton Keynes, but they do a lot of shows in Kent area. So it's a good opportunity for me to get out locally rather than kind of London based. It means obviously I can get a lot more people there and it's home ground.
Do you expect to be back out on Fightzone at some point later in the year?
Yeah, definitely. I think at the minute they haven't really got any London shows. A lot of their shows are up north, like Sheffield way, but that's quite far for me to travel and to get a good crowd up there. So when they've got London shows again, yeah, 100% be back on there.
How did you find the debut? Obviously, like you said, you hadn't fought for 3 years. Seemed from a distance that you had it pretty much your own way, but was it hard shedding the rust?
I was actually really nervous, but I think that was more because I hadn't been in the ring for so long and there had been such a build up with like interviews and a lot of like media pressure on obviously this long awaited debut. So I kind of felt I didn't want to let anyone down and I wanted to kind of put on a performance, but where I had been out the ring for so long, I'd never boxed in 8-ounce gloves, never boxed without head guard. The kind of plan was to keep it basic, keep it simple, don't get involved in too much, just get the rounds under my belt and just get used to being back in there. So for me, the performance kind of wasn't the greatest in terms of what I can give. I felt like I held back quite a lot and I only kind of threw what was necessary. So yeah, I kind of felt a little bit disappointed in that aspect, but I'm glad I got the rounds under my belt. I'm glad I've kind of got used to the 8-ounce gloves, the no head guard, so that the next fight is not such a shock. So that, yeah, the next fight will be a lot more entertaining. That's the plan.
And pretty kind of bedded in now with the new training setup?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's working really well at the minute. Obviously, half the week I'm in London at Churchill's with Sam Mullins. The other half I'm in Ipswich with my partner, Carl. So, yeah, it's working quite well at the minute.
Good stuff. Now, what's the kind of longer term plan? Obviously, you weren't intending on this fight being postponed, but you want to get as many in as possible this year and then looking to move into title class maybe next year?
Yeah, 100%. Even if I can get kind of like 4 or 5 fights in by the end of the year, then if there's a title shot kind of the end of the year, December, beginning of next year, then yeah, 100%. I want to move up the ladder like as soon as possible, really. And especially now, Terry Harper's moved up to lightweight, who was the number one kind of in the UK. So I mean, there's an opportunity there. So yeah, just push for it as much as I can and to get it as quick as I can, really.
You've got the biggest female fight of all time taking place on Saturday with Casey Taylor and Amanda Serrano in New York. How much are you looking forward to that, and how symbolic do you think it is in terms of how far women's boxing has come?
Yeah, I think this fight is going to be a very interesting fight because Katie Taylor's boxed obviously decent people before, but I think Serrano is probably going to be her hardest fight yet. So this will be kind of like the determining factor of kind of who is top dog in the lightweight division for female pros. And I mean, the fact that this fight has been allowed to happen because potentially Katie Taylor can lose. So I think the fact that this fight has been allowed to happen and it's been made means that there is progress happening in boxing, especially like for the females, and it means that these big fights are going to be happening. So yeah, really looking forward to Saturday.
Who are you picking?
It's a tough one really, because I like them both, but I think based on Katie Taylor's like most recent performances, I think she is kind of on the downward slope, not in a bad way, because I respect Katie Taylor, but I think there comes a point where you've reached your peak and it's difficult to keep your peak for that long. And I think Katie Taylor's kind of over the hill now. So yeah, I think Serrano might just do it, you know. Fair
enough. Now, it was announced earlier this week that GB Boxing are going to start training pros in their gym in Sheffield, and that those pros will also be allowed to go to a future Olympics and compete in the amateur side of the sport. You're obviously a former top-class amateur yourself. What do you make of that development?
That's actually the first I've heard of it, to be fair. But in my opinion, I don't think it's a good idea for pros to do amateur as well. The style I think is very different. In the amateur scene, it's a lot more high pace. Obviously you do a lot less rounds compared to what you do as a pro. The training is different in the sense that as an amateur you look to score as many shots as you can, whereas as a pro, although you're still wanting to score shots, you're looking more at sitting down on your shots so that they're more powerful, so that they do more damage over time. Take for example professionals that have gone back to amateur, i.e. like Ramla Ali. She competed in the Olympics, and I think as good a boxer Ramla Ali is, I think where she's gone from pro back to amateur, it didn't work, and she lost. And I think that's what will happen. I think a lot of the amateurs will outwork the professionals, because it is, although it's the same sport, it's different. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work, but I suppose time will tell.
So you wouldn't be tempted to combine the two?
To be honest, probably not, no.
You've got enough going on, if we're honest, so it's probably for the best. Yeah. All right, brilliant. Before I let you go, just remind people out there how they can find you on social media so they can keep up to date, especially for the show coming up in July. Yeah, so I'm on Instagram as Louise_champ1. Twitter, I think I'm Louise0803. Not too sure about that one though, I'll have to check. And Facebook, I'm Louise Boxer Orton. So yeah, you can find me on any of those channels. Great stuff. Well, always a pleasure to have you on this channel. And we will see you again in the run-up to the fight in July. Cheers, Danny. All right, no problem. Take care.